So here we are. I've decided to jump onto stage 4 of the Tour De Zwift. This is a Group C ride, I'm only Group D, but Group D for this one is women only. So the seconds are ticking down. I'm going to pump my watts up above 200 as we get off the starting line. And what I'm really looking to do here now is just make sure that I can get into a decent grouping. I don't really mind whether it's at the front. I know I'm never going to be able to stay right at the front anyway. I just don't want to be stuck in the back group. So I'm thinking that what's probably going to happen now is I'm probably going to be maintaining around about 250 up to 300. I'm expecting I'm going to probably have to keep this up for the first minute, maybe even 2 minutes, which is fine. Right now my FTP is somewhere around about the 180 mark. Every group ride I do, it's slowly creeping up. So I'm not really bothered about position. You can see I'm jumping between around about 190, 200. Again, if you look at the top of the screen, you can see that we've gone 0.3 kilometers. So we barely moved. 2 meters of climb on the right hand side. It was just 1% incline on the hill. I'm still pushing about 200 watts, which for me is about 2.5 watts per kilograms. I'm 80 kilograms at the moment. Well, I'm actually 79, but power hook, didn't get a power up for this one. Would have loved to have got a feather or something just to make the hills a little bit lighter, but I'll gladly take the 10 XP points. That will slowly creep me up from level 15 to level 16. You can see my heart rate seems to have stopped at around about 169. My max heart rate is around about 190 at the moment. So yeah, I'm definitely going somewhat at the moment, but still doing quite comfortable. As I say, I'm only 1 minute 30 in. This is the first kilometre. Travelling at about 39 kilometres an hour. 6% hill. I'm good. I can hold this for quite a while. I'm not feeling that stressed actually. I did take advantage of having a rest day on the weekend. So yesterday I just had went badge hunting. So I just completed Roulet-Mapoulet, one of the France routes. Use that as a nice warm up, kind of get me settled in, ready for this group ride that I'm doing now. I think I did that about midnight. So I'm rested. Yeah, sitting at around about 180, 170 watts, which is around about 2.5 watts per kilogram. I haven't got a real strategy for this race, but just from taking some tips from other people that I watch riding, Jonathan Crane for example, one thing I noticed that he does is has an idea of what sort of watts he's going to be averaging on certain sections. For me, I'm thinking that I want to tackle the hills at around about 180 to 200, maybe a little bit more if I need to, and I'm thinking anything around about my FTP around the rest of the route is good, knowing that I can push a bit more. So right now you can see I'm 200 to 250 watts, and I'm thinking, yeah, that's quite good. So we're about 2 kilometers in, 3 minutes. I'm still going at a decent pace. You can see my heart rate hasn't really dropped that much from 169, it's 165 now. Now I'm starting to think about, right, I want to find a group that's riding at a pace that I find comfortable, and then try and sit with that group. This is one of the things that's important, is trying to get as much of a draft as possible. Sit with a group. It not only makes your ride easier, it also keeps you in check as well, so it gives you the opportunity to push yourself a little bit harder, and that's definitely what I'm going to get from this group, because I've leveled up to a Group C. I'm really only a Group D, so I'm just riding at about 200. I'm looking at the rider list just on the right hand side. I'm seeing who's in front of me, who's behind me. Do I need to jump up to that little group there? I'm getting hot. The top's got to come off. As I was a bit stuck, as you could see. can see it says close the gap. I'm not quite in the draft, so I'm just going to push the watts a bit. I can see that the people in front are doing about 2.4, 2.5. So if I push up a bit, there you go, just suck into here. And what I've learned is don't sit on the last man, which is what I used to do, try and get into the middle. But as I was going, I was thinking, yeah, they're not quite going as fast as I want to go. And the next set of people, I can see there was only a second or two in front. So I'm thinking, you know what, I'm going to do 150, let's push up to 200 and grab the other group. Now fortunately, as you can see here, it's quite a big group of riders all of a sudden catches up with me. So I'm thinking, okay, great, let me just stick with these. I'm only on 200, there's just under 600 people in the group. I've got no problems with coming last, but you know, just for personal bragging rights, I'd like to finish in the top half or somewhere, not that it matters anyway. So I'm thinking I'm going to try and stick with this group. There's a nice little bunch there, so I'm just going to try and get on the back of this wheel here. You notice I've got to put the watts up a bit. It's 5% hill, I'm touching 300, that's more than I want to do. Let me just drop down a bit. I'm going to give a few, well, I took a picture there just so I can have something for the memoirs. So I post the ride to Strava. What I tend to do on these sort of like hill slugs here, because I know I'm just going to be grinding out, you can see my cadence is about 85, which is where I tend to sit quite comfortably. That's my natural cadence that I tend to sit at. Yeah, I tend to have a look on the companion app and just give a few ride-ons to a few of the surrounding riders around me. I'm hurting, I know they're hurting as well. So, coming up towards the mole, and I'm thinking, right, I know that there's a bit of a flat section here, so this will give me a bit of a chance of recovery, but I want to make sure that I'm not sat out on my own. So I've just stepped on the gas just a little bit, just to jump onto this group here, thinking, yeah, let me sit with this little bunch of four. There's a few more jumping up behind. You can see my heart rate is still sitting at around about 166, and my cadence is sitting in the 80s, which is where it normally is. So that's all good. Now what I'm just going to do is just use this as an opportunity to try and recover. Think about get my heart rate down a bit. I don't know the route off completely, but I have ridden it a few times, so I know that there's a bit of a hill coming up, including the box hill. I'm probably going to be sitting somewhere about 175 to about 200 on there, probably grinding out at about 75 RPMs. That's how I like to tackle the hills. But you know, the more I ride, that's an area where I know I can improve on and just build my hill slog better. If you look at the bottom, you can see I've got the sort of like the graph. You can see obviously where I'm pushing more watts and or sprinting, you'll see it peaking to red. But you'll see when I'm on the hills, coming off a bit later, you'll see that I tend to sit a kind of a mixture of yellow and green, which definitely says I can give a little bit more. So the graph at the bottom just gives you an idea of how much effort you're putting out. It's a useful thing to look back on, and you can see where your stress levels are on certain parts of the course, match that up against your watts. You can see I'm only doing 125 now, it's dropping down to blue. Yeah, not much else. So I'm 5 kilometers in. I'm thinking, yeah, there's 16k left. I guess I'm pretty settled in. You can see I'm still about 168 on my heart rate. Watts are around about 200, so I'm pretty much riding where I want to be. I'm above my FTP, so I know that I can give more. It's not going to be an hour, so I know that I've got more to give and can give more. And this ride is, it's not a race, but for me it's something that I know I can push myself a lot more as I start to find myself on riding, push myself, find where can I improve, where my weakness is. Now what I'm doing now is I'm looking, I can see that there's a hill, so this is a chance for me to get a bit of a recovery if I'm not pedaling. And I should have paid a bit more attention, because you can see the gradient changes there. Now I've lost the group. I'm thinking, right, I don't want to lose these. They were kind of sitting where I wanted, so it's kind of like jump on the gas and just kick up. So I probably saved some watts and some energy there, and then gave it all back, trying to get back onto the group here. But I was only pushing to 300, so wasn't pushing myself too much. Now what I've learned through riding some of these group rides more is, once I try to get back onto the group, is to just ease off my power as I'm approaching, so I'm not slingshotting past. I want to try and settle in and not just catch the back one. I want to sit somewhere in the middle, so it's easier to stay within that group. I haven't quite got on this one here yet, but I'm recovering. You look at the bottom, you can see all the red. Yeah, I'm thinking, right, I've caught this group up, but I really need to try and get some recovery back in my legs, get this heart rate down. I'd like it to 50s or 40s before we start the hill. So thankfully it looks as if everyone else is having the same thoughts as me, and they're doing a little bit of recovery as we come up to this section here. This is good. I'm trying to sit on these as you come around this corner.